Welcome back to Speak Up Queen, the podcast where we empower, uplift, and celebrate women who have reclaimed their voices to inspire others. In today's episode, we are thrilled to welcome Nadja Hagen, a self-love coach who helps high-achieving women recover from people-pleasing and create lives that align with their true values. Not just mission is to guide women toward healthy boundaries, prioritizing their needs, and building meaningful relationships without compromising their authenticity. Through her work, she teaches clarity on personal values, healing emotional wounds, and embodying self-love in day-to-day life. In today's conversation, Nadia will share the moment she decided to take charge of her healing journey, how she has embraced thriving and redefined herself through her journey. She's going to give advice for women who feels voiceless and unseen. The life-changing power of setting boundaries and practicing self-compassion. Nadja's story is a powerful testament to the strength and transformation that comes with self-love and boundaries. I can't wait for you to hear her insights and be inspired by her journey. So without further ado, let's welcome Nadja Hagen to the Speak Up Queen.
Hello, here I am. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show with you today.
Well, let's start with what was the moment that made you decide to take charge of your life and start your healing journey?
Oh gosh, I can remember it as if it was yesterday. It's about 15 years ago, and I was working in investment banking during this time, and my then boss called me into the office. And before I went to the ladies' room and I thought, he's not gonna fire me today, isn't he? Probably not. I'm just exaggerating. And then I entered his office and he told me, I'm gonna fire you today. And I asked him, why? And he said, you're shit. What? Yeah, exactly. It was like a mouth-dropping moment. It was like 2 days before I have received very good feedback that my work is valuable, that I'm adding value, all these good things. So there were no pre-signs. And I tried to ask him, is there anything I can change, something I can make better so that how can we work this out? Because I didn't have the negative track record of people giving me warnings, like that's not working if you continue like this. This was just like bam. And you know what I noticed afterwards was, okay, I lost my job in a very horrible way. So I was completely questioning my self-worth, my worth, my ability to do anything valuable and meaningful for the world. And at the same time, I noticed that my so-called friends were falling apart, dropping away, no longer inviting me because they weren't actually real friends. They were business connections. So to make it a little bit shorter, everything fell apart and I was left, my relationship with my then fiance, he broke off with me too. So it was a real disaster. It was like nothing was left. And that was what I felt inside. I noticed that I actually don't know any longer who I am because I identified myself so much with the work I did, the persona, the businesswoman, the career woman, the things that I defined through my outside world, that when everything was taken away, I felt as if nothing was left and I didn't truly know who I was.
I am so sorry that that happened to you, but I want to, it's just showing that people is just there when it's going good with you, all of them is there. And we try to people please our way into other people's life, but it's like that. And they can drop you if circumstances change or the environment is changing or we are starting to our healing journey. They are just like, I can't feed off her anymore. I can't abuse her anymore. I can't, you know, people's pleasing. We are all in this. But for me, that was really standing out of your story was when you were alone, was that the moment where you was like, what happened? Was I Because sometimes the hardest part is being alone without all the noise. So what was for you the biggest thing about being alone? Was it like a shock? And did you just immediately start like, okay, I need to heal now? And or was it because there's women there in there that is now at that stage where her husband might have broke off, or her fiance? Oh, sorry, my Afrikaans brain is taking over. But her relationship with you, or she got fired because of things. What was that moment when you realized, like, phew, okay, yes, everybody left me? Did you, because sometimes, how can I say, sometimes we get in a victim mode and we will stay there because everyone left. We are now all alone. So what was the moment that you decided that, no, it's not for me anymore?
Mm. So the first thing that happened was that I actually isolated myself because I felt so full of shame. I was so ashamed. And you know, the first question I always got when I was meeting people, because these were the business circle I was in, is, hey, what are you doing? So, what are you working? What is your job? What is your career? And I didn't want to tell people, oh, I got fired. Oh no, I was so ashamed. And seriously, for months, I hardly left the bed at all. So I moved back in with my parents. So they took care of that I had food on my table and everything. And I was very grateful that at least I had people around me who took care that it wasn't dying of hunger and thirst. And then I can remember there was a birthday party of a former student colleague of mine. And I so desperately wanted to go because I love these people. We had awesome times as students and we haven't seen each other for quite some while. And then I was thinking they all gonna ask me, what are you doing right now? And then I need to admit, oh, I got fired because I didn't perform well enough. And I don't know, it was just a second where it was like, no, I go anyway. I don't care. If not, I just go home again. So I went there and I was so afraid. My heart was beating in my chest. And I was, oh, hopefully nobody's gonna ask me. Hopefully, don't let them ask me, what are you doing? And what was the first question I got? Hey, what are you doing? Where are you working? And I was like, I got fired. And the guy asking me this question was telling me, yeah, me too. What did they tell you? They told me I'm not good enough. My work is shit. And I was like, what? The exact same thing happened to me. And I knew this guy for a couple of years and I know he's very professional, he's intelligent, he's hardworking, he's kind, he's friendly. So there isn't anything not good enough about him. And what I've learned at this day is that sometimes people say very mean and harmful things to us without any consideration of how that impacts us to just get their way. And very often also to cover up other things. In my case, what I've learned that I was just the first employee who got fired. And after me, a lot of others followed. So they didn't want the market to know that they are actually firing people because they are in financial distress. I learned this years later. But the learning here is that not all people are transparent, kind, and have good intentions for you. And what I've learned is to check the motives behind people's behavior, to not take all things by word and personally. Sometimes it is, but very often it is not. And the most important learning I got from this day, I'm full of gratitude until today, is that I'm probably not the only one experiencing this. And it's never about my worth, my self-worth, and how lovable I am. Because the worth that is coming to us is not determined by circumstances and by people around us. That's inherent and that can't be destroyed. We are loved beyond measure and imagination. And we are worthy beyond everything you can imagine. Yeah, that was the biggest and most beautiful learning I got out of all of this.
And it's always like, we feel always like, oh, but no one will understand. If no one will understand what I've been through, yes, we all experience our trauma different ways, but yet there is some oh my word, my Afrikaans spring, here we go again. That word.
Similarity.
There we go, that word. Thank you so much. In each other's stories, that we can learn so much from each other, and to know that there's no, each Speak Up Queen that's listening to this today must just know that you are not alone. You are really not alone. You might feel like you're alone, but you're not alone. So that makes me to the next question. What does thriving mean to you, and how do you embrace it in your life?
Thriving. What does thriving mean to me? The first thing that comes to my mind is that I think thriving is a very, very personal and individual thing. So there is not one way that people thrive. And that is something that's very often exploited in marketing. If you do this, you will thrive. But the first step is missing. Part of thriving for me is to become aware of my personal values. What is it that truly matters to me? So, to give a practical example, what is more important to me, security or freedom? And there is no golden rule to this. Freedom has its beautiful ups, but it also has a price I pay for it. The same goes with security. So if we look at work, career, if I'm working as an employee, I have a lot of security compared to being an entrepreneur. But I also have less flexibility. I have people telling me what to do all the time. I have less freedom, and maybe work gets boring, whatever it is. But what I want to say here is that it's not all gold that is shining. We have advantages and disadvantages. So it's even more important that for me, I know what matters more to me. And this is what I've done for myself, and it has proven very successful, and I do it with all my clients now. Is the first step is to define the 3 to 5 most important values, personal values, like something like freedom or security. And then I use this as a guidance, as a compass, as a navigation system when I make decisions. So that I no longer try to achieve some goals that I think might make me happy or fulfilled and just disappoint me in the end. Because for me, it is aligned living, and aligned means I am aligned with my values. I am aligned what makes me me, what is important uniquely, truly to me. And this can be living in an apartment in New York overlooking Central Park, but this can also be living in a country house in the middle of nowhere and everything in between. And that's a message I would love to share with all the queens, Speak Up Queens out there, is that there is no one way for you to live fine, to thrive, to do the right thing. This is a personal, individual journey, and you have all the right, all the room and space to do it your way.
It is, I said this morning to my son. We had an argument, and I was like, you are 11 years old. I'm a mom of an 11-year-old son or boy. I have never been in this stage of my life. I've never had an 11-year-old that's almost 12 going on 18. I haven't done it. And you're 11 years old. You have never went through the things that you're currently going through. So we are all on our different journeys, yet we come together as a family, but still we are our own human beings. We are all on our own journey. And I feel like when we really think about this, it's like, whoa, it is like, okay. We need to start thinking about, okay, this is us, put ourselves first and say, shoot, I'm gonna die one day. Am I gonna say I was passionate about doing things that I really loved? Was it aligned with my values? Yeah, it's just, we need to just remember that we are all on different journeys. Some of them might feel like, oh, but she's so confident. Or it is like we don't need to compare when you are your authentic self, you don't compare anymore. You're like, I know my worth. I am me. I don't care about anyone else's opinion but yet again, we need to redefine ourselves. So to the next question, how have you redefined yourself or your values since you begin your own healing journey?
How I defined my values. Did I? Yeah. How? I think it took me a couple of weeks and a lot of paperwork. So I was compiling a list of all the values I could come across, and I searched Google and the internet for everything that could be a value. And then I started with that matter to me and cross out the ones that don't, which 40, 50, a lot of value still. Too much to really use it as my navigation system. And something that has proven to be very successful in defining my personal values is that I have tried to create scenarios. So as an example, one scenario could be, imagine you are winning the lottery and you never ever have to work a day in your life again for money. What is it that you do? And some people say, I go travel the world. Okay, you do this maybe for 6 months, maybe for a year, maybe for 2 years. And then, and the answer is always, yeah, my body boring. So, what I'm gonna do now? And the more we drill down, the more come to the things that might be buried deep down inside us because society told us that's not possible, or you dream too big, or who do you think you are, all these things. But the dreams that we carry within that are important to us, and the moment we believe in them, it's not the moment they're gonna magically happen, but it's the moment we come back into our power so that we can take the next step. What I've learned on my self-love journey is that mindset is the first step. The moment I believe something, that enables me to then take the next steps and admit, oh, I don't have to have it figured out perfectly. I'm on a learning journey. I can take the first step, I can see what works, and then I can take the next step. I'm allowed to make mistakes and course correct and learn from them. And this is something that develops over time. So what I've also noticed is your values might change a little bit over time. So one or two of them might lower down in priority and others might rise. The more you trust yourself, the more you strip away all these masks, all these images and personas you have buried yourself within. And the more the true you, the authentic you, comes out and shines. So yeah, that was my way to figuring out my values. And I think maybe once a year, every second year, I have them written down. And I put them on my fridge to not forget them. Which wouldn't happen because I'm so embodied with them. But this was how I started. I had my 5 most important values written on and noted on my fridge door. Yeah, and that's a tip I can give if you want to embody your values more, remember yourself, put it somewhere where you can regularly see them and check in. When you're fairly new to this world, maybe you check in every week, every month, then every quarter. I do it every 2 years roughly to see, is this still what feels deeply aligned?
Yeah, we did a change maker workshop a few weeks back, and we put out all the values out there on the ground, and we needed to go and stand by one that was really like you. And I was like, And then I'm like, I think this one is me. Oh, then I'm like, no. I don't, and it's really, we don't, I mean, I never knew about values and things like that. I was just like, this is just me, we are going on. But when you are like searching for what type of values there are, it's like, oh wow, I am actually, I've got this. And then it's like self-affirmation, like, wow, it is within me. These values are really within me. But sometimes we do believe all of these opinions of other people. Um, that is so, but won't spoil that. We are going to the next question because you're gonna answer that question for us. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone who feels voiceless or unseen?
I have so many pieces of advice I would love to give. So it takes me a little bit of time to think about what's the one piece, the most important one. I start with a little bit of theoretical background. And as we started with the first question, that I think it's so important that we remember ourselves that since our birth, since the beginning of our human experiences, we were surrounded by people who have expectations of us and who would like us to behave rather in one way than another one. So parents usually prefer a baby that's not crying over a baby that's crying. So only a few parents are able to recognize, oh, it's not crying to annoy me. The baby's crying because it's expressing a need. And it's the only chance and ability it has to get in touch with me and express this need. So when we grow up, it continues with don't behave this way, be brave, sit still, whatever it is. Then we go to school. Please write the good grades. We don't want these. You have to perform. So we are so conditioned by people around us, and not always with a harmful intention. You know, these people are conditioned too, so most of them are even aware they are doing it. Even the ones who love you and who are thinking that they are giving you the best advice they could. If parents tell their children, you have to have good grades so you can study, so you can make yourself a living, that's the best view they have. It might not be the best way for you. So the most important part, the most important advice I would love to give is, even if you have been trained to not do it for years, but trust yourself. The little tiny voice, it might even only be a whisper anymore, but that is speaking to you, your intuition, your connection to God, the universe, to something that is greater, to life force, this desire that burns deep down in your heart. You can truly rely on this. You can trust yourself. This is pure wisdom talking to you. And never, ever make the expectations or the opinion of other people more important than your own. You have all permission, all right in this world to see things the way you do, to feel things the way you do, and to have the dreams, the wishes, the needs, the desires that you do. They are absolutely legit.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's come to the next one. How do you set boundaries to protect your energy and peace?
Oh, I love this one because it's so powerful. The first thing I want to share here is that quite often people think that boundaries are these harsh walls that we build around us to keep other people outside. And this is absolutely not the truth. I consider boundaries like rules. So when we do sports or when we play games with each other or in traffic, we have certain rules. When the traffic light is red, we stop so nobody gets hurt. It's not, the traffic light is not isolating or pushing cars away. It's just giving a safe space. So we all have the space we need. We all have the right to drive, and we are coordinated between each other. And I consider boundaries to be the same. These are positive rules how we want to be treated, and they are showing the standards of what we allow in our life and what we don't. And the first thing is alignment. So again, you have to set a boundary like this, then it works. And this is acceptable, this is not. This is highly personal. Things that are totally acceptable for you might be like, oh, terrible for me, I would never ever want to deal with it. And both is okay.
Yes.
But the thing here is we need to communicate this in a transparent, efficient, and kind way.
Yes.
That's super important because that enables true, authentic relationships. So the first step in setting a healthy boundary that brings us closer to each other is to come back to our values. What is important for us? And the next thing we need to know, boundaries protect resources. They might protect our time. Very often they protect our emotions or our energy. And these resources are equally important as time or money might be. So let me give you an example. Imagine I had that was full of work, jam-packed with meetings, and it's Friday and I'm just so exhausted. And I noticed desperately I need some time for myself. And a friend is asking me, hey, do you want to go out for lunch on Saturday? Yeah, of course, I would love to go out with a friend. But at the same time, I notice, I really need this time to refill my own cup. Then it comes back, am I rather an introvert or am I rather an extrovert? If I recharge myself, if I refuel myself while being with others, then the right thing to do for me is say yes and go. But if I'm rather the person who needs time for herself to recharge, then I need to say no. And this no doesn't have anything to do with my friend, with I don't like her anymore, I don't want to go to lunch, not at all. It only has to do with me and my current state of being. So the next super important thing is that I need to consider what kind of relationship do I have. I set a boundary differently with my boss or a client than I do with a friend or a family member or my child. And I need to ask myself, do I want to foster this relationship? Or do I would rather have a little bit more distance or maybe also fade it out completely because it's not doing any good to me? In the case I decide for myself, I love this friend, I value her highly, then I want to foster this relationship. So the thing I'm going to do is tell her, I would love to go out with you for lunch. I would love this. But I notice I'm so tired and I'm so drained and I just feel like having some time for myself. And the next thing is I would love to bring my positive energy, my love to you. But right now I can't because I'm empty. I feel so empty. So I would prefer not to go. But I can also say only if this is what I truly mean. Yeah. Otherwise it's people pleasing and I'm harming myself and the relationship. But that's a whole different topic. Then I can say, maybe, what do you think about meeting on Sunday afternoon for tea? Then I've had some time for myself. I'm feeling fresher. I'm feeling more like myself. So if this works for you, I would love to see you on a Sunday instead. And this is a boundary that feels good for me to set because it's fully aligned for what matters to me. It also feels good to me because I have communicated it transparently, honestly, kindly, and in consideration of my friend's feelings. But the difference to people pleasing is that I do all the things and then I consider her feelings too. I don't tell everything to behave according to her feelings and her emotional state. I just take it in consideration. It's an important piece of the puzzle, but it's not the puzzle. And I'm absolutely sure for a friend that receiving this kind of boundary feels also good because it doesn't feel as if I'm pushing her away. So if I'm receiving this, I would feel like, yeah, I get it. I can totally understand it. I've been in these shoes as well. I've had these weeks like that. And I actually prefer to meet a friend who is recharged and in good energy and okay than someone who comes on his last leg or her last leg. Like, "Oh, I'm so drained. I just, our meeting is another thing on my to-do list." Just, no, that doesn't feel good as well. So that's the secret, but not so secret sauce to setting healthy boundaries that feel good on both ends, the boundary setter and the receiver of the boundary.
And it's just amazing. Me and one of my friends, we moved to Australia 5 years ago, and I was really struggling to find a friend because in South Africa I had my friend where I could open up and I could just be me, and we could tell each other what was going on. And I really, the last almost 5 years, I really prayed and asked the Lord, Lord, just give me one friend that I can have a boundary, that we can have. And now the Lord have blessed me with amazing women in my life. And we are at this stage in our real friendship where if both our husbands works together, but when if I'm drinking coffee at her home and her husband is walking in there, I will put down my cup and I will say, see you tomorrow or see you in early, because I know that her family and her husband matters. It's that she wants to spend time with her husband and her son, and I'm the same. I love spending time with my husband. So we have this communication of, if my husband shows up early tonight and or her husband, we leave everything. She's going home. There's no that feeling about, oh, she's chasing me away now. I have to go now because her husband. And sometimes we need, I think sometimes boundaries also teaching us who's our true friends and who's not, because we need to, like you said, if both parties need to feel happy about what we are saying and in a respectful way. And for such a long time, I was like, I must just say yes, 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 because I don't want, I want a friend, I'm searching for a friendship. So let me just put myself down and just try to fit in so that I could have a friend. But then when I started to set my own healthy boundaries, I was like, you know what? I'm going to say what I feel and how I feel it, and my family always will come first. And if someone doesn't respect that, because I feel like boundaries and respect goes hand to hand, we have to respect each other's boundaries, because if we don't do that, it's like, I feel like it's abuse, because that person is like, her family time is, she loves her family time with her husband. If I am going to be disrespectful, I'm going to just sit there, drink my coffee and try. And I want her to like say, Marika, it's my family time. I was always, after this relationship where we can be honest with each other, even with my husband. It took me a long time to be honest with my husband, and nothing major, but to just say, you know what, I don't like the way the trash can. Just take it out before I lose my shit today. And it's not that he didn't do anything wrong. It's just like, I press it down, press it down. Some days I don't care if the bin is overloaded or my son's music is too loud. And then it's like, something is like, can you just quickly do this? But when we learn to say, you know what? I don't like it when you're playing your music so long, or I don't like it when the bin is so full. Can you just take it out before that overwhelm? I feel like boundaries is like really something that just, it's not only protecting us, but it's always giving us this confidence to say, I don't like the way you're talking to me. I don't like the way you're treating me. And if the people doesn't like what you're saying, then I guess it's time for them to go.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I want to say so much yes to what you said. Yes, so much yes. People using our boundaries when they are aware of them, in most cases, it is abuse. So we should not tolerate this. And when we build relationships upon saying yes out of obligation, so out of people pleasing. We are not building real relationships. We are building relationships with objects, with ideas and images in our minds, but not with real people. And the ones that are building a relationship with us on these terms, they don't even know us. They don't even want to get to know us. They might be afraid of too much commitment, intimacy, whatever it is. But that's not our thing to deal with. You know, we're adults. Everybody is self-responsible. So people pleasing actually hinders true, authentic, and real friendships and connections. So there's so much wisdom in this. So I couldn't, so much yes to this.
We're almost finished and I wish we could go on. But the last question is, what are your favorite ways to practice self-compassion? Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's one that took me, I think, also 15 years to learn. I still can remember when my mom told me, you have to love yourself. And I was like, conceptual, yes, of course, everybody needs to love themselves. And internally, I was like, what the hell does it actually mean to love myself? I mean, I love a man. And I didn't laugh because I was so infatuated. I was putting them on a pedestal, idealizing them. So that actually wasn't love. And I didn't have a valued example, a valued connection to love. So actually, I hadn't had a clue. What I've learned is self-care is actually, and self-compassion is that accepting things as they are. I can accept that let me search for an example. Yoga practice. You know, I love doing yoga. I'm a mom to a 4-year-old. I'm having a business. Life is so busy. I'm having parents who are getting older, all these things. So there's a lot to do. And very often I do not have sufficient time to do my yoga practice because not other people are pushing me. I prioritize other things higher. So spending time with my daughter is more important to me than having a yoga session. Other people might decide differently, and that is okay. But what I've learned, what self-compassion and self-care for me is that I can absolutely accept that it is as it is. That it's not my fault, that I'm not wrong, that I'm not the one not getting it done like all the other people out there. It's just right now I'm having different priorities, and maybe I'm not so happy with how I set my priorities at this time. Maybe I'm questioning myself that I should prioritize myself, my self-care, my yoga routine higher than I do, which is okay because you said, you gave the example with your son, and you know, we are constantly developing, our environments are constantly changing, so we are constantly adapting and finding the balance. There is no point where I have figured out anything in my life. I've learned this through my daughter. The moment I thought, now I got her, she changed. Okay, back to zero. Start again. But it's the same with everything in life. And I can be not totally happy with my yoga practice, or it's just an example. You can take anything else with my yoga practice right now. And at the same time, accept that I'm doing the best I can do right now, because I might be tired, I might be drained, I might have too much on my to-do list. Whatever it is, there are valid reasons why I decide the way I do. And at the same time, I think that's also super important. I can strive for more without condemning myself that I'm not there yet. Maybe I can try to get 2 short yoga practices in my weekly schedule for only 10 minutes twice a week. Maybe that is my starting point. And I just don't compare myself to the lady who is spending an hour on her mat, or even the yoga teacher who is doing all these fancy social media videos, because that's not who I am. Self-compassion, just acceptance without judgment, accepting myself without judging myself, and giving myself the right to be imperfect and still doing the best I can. And that doesn't make me less lovable. And there's one tip I would like to share, because sometimes this is very, if you haven't experienced this in your own life, this might feel very conceptual. So imagine if you have a child and your child is learning something new and he or she can't do it properly. So it was for my daughter when she learned to cut paper. We did a lot of creative things, but you need to practice to cut a straight line, and you also need to practice to cut out a circle. But would I ever condemn her or think bad about her because she can't do it yet? No, that would never, ever, ever come to my mind. And I think it wouldn't to any healthy mother. So why do you treat yourself the way you would never treat your child? That's a good example. Maybe that makes it easier to grasp this concept of acceptance and self-compassion.
Oh, wow. I feel like we can go on for hours. Like, seriously, there's so many golden crowns. I don't say golden nuggets in this, it's golden crowns, because it's just like amazing how I can hear stories. Like, I am like, oh, I just want to sit like this and listen to everybody. I'm like, Marika, I don't think it's going to be professional if you sit like this. And I'm like, okay, just sit back. And I'm like, but I want to lean into these things. And I hope my wish for Speak Up Queen is for women not to just speak up, but for the women who's on their healing journey, that they can listen to each one of you and really find value, because here is a lot of value. My 17-year-old inner child, or even just me when I was 17, would have done anything to hear these things, about, whoa, it's actually happened. Oh, well. And it is. We are collaborating, we are expanding our knowledge, sharing our knowledge, because we are all on our own journey. We are all experiencing things different ways. There's so many tools out there that you can choose from. And yeah, I just really want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for giving so much value, because how can I say it? This value is priceless. It's so valuable that it's actually priceless. You can't put an amount of money onto the value that you and each other woman gives on this Speak Up Queen podcast. And I really want to say thank you, like seriously, thank you. My heart is full, or my cup is full. I am gonna sleep like nice tonight. Like, I am gonna sleep, oh, because my cup is full. So thanks for filling my cup today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so, so much for having me. It's just like, oh, I could go on for hours and hours too. I had so much fun. It is so exciting to be here. Just a big heartfelt thank you. It was amazing. And yeah, I hope that all the listeners, everybody gets her wisdom, you don't say nuggets, her golden queens out of this episode. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Nadja.